Welcome back to another episode of the Ultimate Guide to the WWE 2K Creation Suite. This episode, we're going to be taking a look at face morphing. So let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do most of the time is change the face template. I prefer the fourth one in the first row, as it tends to make the details stand out a little better. And then of course we're going to want to line up our face texture itself, as we created in the past episode, with our model. Then we're going to want to place the parts. For the eyebrows, you're going to want to place them underneath the eyebrows on your texture. Eyes, you're going to want to make sure that none of the whites are showing once you place the eyes, otherwise it'll create some problems for your character. Nose, pretty self-explanatory. Mouth, same thing, just line everything up. And then for the face shape itself, you're going to want to pull up your reference image and try to match it up as best as you can. Granted, we're going to go back once we're finished and do it with the morphing some more, but just get a preliminary idea of what you want. As you can see here, I've got kind of that face shape, and now we're going to match up the skin tone. The way I like to match up the skin tone is to turn the model to the side where the lines might be a little bit more in touch with the skin tone and line it up that way. Because if the center of the face is bright, that's fine, but if there's a color change, then not so fine. And you can also change the skin tone manually, as you see here. Moving it up makes it brighter, down makes it darker, right makes it more saturated, left makes it less saturated. And then you're going to want to, or at least I like to, get rid of the eyebrows and the eyelashes, as the eyebrows on the face texture should suffice. Now for the next section, there's going to be these arrows to show you which way each morphing part moves. For the green arrow, that marks the direction that the value will move when you increase the value. The red arrow represents which way the part will move when you decrease the value. We're going to go through this part pretty quickly, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask, feel free to slow down the video, watch it over as much as you need, and just pay attention. You can also try it on your own. I'm going to be mostly quiet for this part, but I'll throw in a few notes where they are needed. Okay, so the first note is for eyebrow depth. In 2K20, eyebrow depth does not work. However, here's an example of how it works in 2K19. Later on, we'll talk about a counter for it not working in 2K20 and how to fix that issue. Okay, a note to make here is that in 2K20, nose bridge actually controls the nose, and nose controls the nose bridge. So just make sure you keep that in mind when you're morphing your character. So the nostrils is one of those sections that during the live stream, as this was pre-recorded months ago, in order to keep things moving, I didn't cover all of the things as you see there. But essentially, like many other options in the game, it just moves the same way but on the opposite side. So just keep that in mind. Same with the mouth here, as you can see we're only covering the left side, but the right side does the same exact thing. Cheekbones are one of the most important parts, at least in my opinion, as that is what is really going to help give your face its shape. And as that note says, this was recorded a few months ago before the latest patches, so you'll see the cheeks moved left to right instead of inward and outward, but as of the latest patch they move inward and outward, so that has been fixed. Okay, so we're coming up on the end here, so again I just wanted to reiterate, if you have any questions, feel free to ask or experiment for yourself. So let's move on to actually face morphing Christopher Daniels so you'll get an idea of how this works. A lot of times you want to look for certain features as you see here. I've outlined them for your convenience and left you a couple notes. So you just want to look for certain features that will tell you where they need to be moved. So let's get into it. So as you can see here, it's not lined up very well yet. You're not going to have a perfect lineup, but this is just a guide to give you an idea of what you're looking for. So let's make these changes based on the notes. So first we're going to make that smaller forehead as we suggested, and then counter it with an upper forehead that's sizable, as we noted. I don't like to go all the way up or all the way down to 0 or 100 on most parts. That's personal preference. Upper cheekbones, we're going to make them stick out. Lower cheekbones, we're moving them down, and then middle, we're physically moving the cheekbones themselves towards his mouth. Eyes, we're going to use the eye socket depth to counter the lack of being able to change eyebrow depth, because the sunken in eyes and nose bridge will help make it so the eyebrows are more prominent. So that's what we're doing there. Nose, we're going to move the nose bridge down a little bit. And now we're just going to mess with the jawline and the head shape a little bit. You can use jawline in either morphing or the character face region screen as you see here. Either works. I like to use both, in fact. That'll give you the best results. Now we're going to touch it up with the jawline to bring that jaw out a little bit. Now we're going to bring his chin out as well to give that prominent chin we talked about, make it larger. And then we're going to use vertical placement to move it down, which will give the effect of his chin being lower than his jaw, as you see on the reference. Making it wider, straightforward. And then we're going to thin out his jaw a little bit, so his jaw isn't quite as... It was a little too thick, so we're just going to thin that out, give him that nice jawline shape we're looking for. Mess with the heights a little bit to make everything in place. And then lastly, we're going to work with the mouth a little bit. We're going to make it smaller, bring it out some with the depth. And that's going to be about it. As you can see, his face isn't perfect, but it's better. You just have to mess with it until you get what you want. That concludes this episode of the Ultimate Guide to the WWE 2K Creation Suite. Stay tuned in another 4 years as we cover attires.